Alright, here we are in week 5 of the ERL, and it is me, Nick, of the Black Swamp Slowpokes, facing off against David of the Philadelphia number 76ers. So for the start of the battle, he was usually bringing out his Don fan to try and get those stealth rocks set up. So I usually would do something similar, try and block him or bounce him back with my Sableye, but this week I decided, screw it, let's start with Blastoise and try and kill this Don fan so that we make sure rocks aren't a problem later on. No one on my team takes heavy damage from rocks, but they're annoying. So I did take down Don fan right there, so at this point I'm like, okay, there's no more rocks coming out, except apparently in one of his other battles he did have his Clefable packing rocks. So he brings out Shaman, which is a huge threat for my Blastoise. So I switch out, bring in Ferrothorn, because Ferrothorn, he's got great special defense, plus, I mean, a grass attack, he's just going to eat that up. Doesn't really do much of anything. Unfortunately, it was a special attack, so the Iron Barb Rocky Helmet didn't hit Shaman, which makes me a little bit sad because I love watching all that damage take place, but Shaman was carrying a Life Orb for this battle, so it was doing damage to itself. Right now it does the rest. At this point I was like, okay, cool, you can do rest. That'll just give me 2 turns to headbutt you, or 3 turns I guess, 3 attacks, which if he had stayed in, I believe would have been, no, probably wouldn't have been enough to kill without a critical hit. But he swaps out, and with his natural cure, it just cures that sleep. So next time he comes out, he is awake. And then he brings out Slowking. Throughout this battle, Slowking was a bit of a struggle for me. I was not planning for him to bring Slowking, so I didn't really plan to fight Slowking. So in this battle there's a lot of just duking it out back and forth between Slowking and a couple of my other Pokemon, just because he's big and bulky and I don't really have anything that's super effective against him. So at this point I bring Blastoise back in, mainly because I know it's Psychic Water, which isn't going to do much against Blastoise, so I'm like, alright, let's use Rapid Spin, get rid of these rocks, because they're just annoying. They're not really causing me much damage, but they're just bothersome. And then he brings Clefable in, another big, bulky one. So that, it wasn't supposed to do much damage, but it did get rid of my stones, which was the point of it. And now Blastoise back at full health because of those leftovers. Now, Clefable's another one that's a bit of an annoyance throughout this fight, and by a bit of an annoyance, I mean a giant fucking headache, because it's another one that's really big and bulky, but has the ability to throw some heavy hits, especially when it starts using Calm Mind, boosting its special attack and special defense. It can become a big problem at that point. So, I keep bringing in Ferrothorn against it, because Ferrothorn can take hits pretty well. I mean, that was a once boosted, so only like not a huge increase, and that did a good amount of damage, but later on we'll see Ferrothorn just takes a whole bunch of hits really well. And this happens a whole bunch too, where I'm hoping he'll keep in Clefable against Ferrothorn so I can hit him with that super effective Steel, which does pretty much nothing against Slowking. So I'm like, well, there's no point in keeping him out, so let's bring in Gothitelle. Psychic Special Wall. Can just take hits all day long. So, he uses Future Sight, because he uses that a whole bunch throughout this battle, just to try and, I'm assuming, get extra hits in. Maybe I wouldn't expect one of those, but it really never ends up being a problem, especially since I throw up that light screen, so that stays around for like 5 turns. That is a huge help for me. So as you can see there, Gothitelle takes 19 damage off of that Scald, so he's not doing anything against Gothitelle. Gothitelle almost heals the damage she just took back up. So I'm not really worried about Slowking, and he's obviously like, well, this doesn't go anywhere. So he brings Clefable back in. This was a questionable choice. I mean, I kind of understand why he did it, because Clefable is a bit stronger than Slowking, especially when you start getting those Calm Minds going, because clearly Gothitelle's not much of a damage dealer. So I'm sure he brought in Clefable just to kind of hopefully take down Gothitelle, but in the end, he's really not able to do enough, because Gothitelle can just take those fairy hits like it's no problem. even when they're boosted, especially with that light screen up, it just solidifies my defense even more against his special attackers. So he had quite a few. He had Shaman, Clefable, Slowking. Think that's really it of his real good special attackers. So it's like, there's not really... I mean, I brought a lot of special defenders, so that definitely helped me out. So Gothitelle is a really great special defender. Ferrothorn is a great special defender. Snorlax has great defenses. I think his physical defense is a bit better, but he can also... He's great with special defense. Blastoise has great special defense. So, I mean, I brought in a lot of things to block special defense, because I thought the battle would come down to a lot of this switching back and forth between bulky special walls. So since he still has Clefable out, I'm like, alright, let's bring Ferrothorn back in, and with that, like, unboosted, and with that light screen up, I mean, that did, like, not even 20 damage, I don't think. So, I mean, even though it wore off right there, he's got no chance of taking down Ferrothorn easily. So then, he sends out Slowking again, and as I had been trying several times before, I hit it with an Iron Head, which was intended for the Clefable, and does pretty much nothing against Slowking. He heals, I think, more than half of that, maybe about half of that damage back up, so there's really no point in keeping Ferrothorn in for that. So now I bring in Snorlax. Snorlax, he hasn't been... I haven't used him since week 1, I don't believe. And in this fight, he was a very integral part of the team. So what I was trying to do here is I can't remember, I was trying something different. Oh yeah. So I wanted to... Since Slowking came in, I was thinking, since I brought in Snorlax, I was like, okay, if he wants to take out Snorlax, he's going to have to bring fighting against me. Because that's the only thing that's really going to break through against him. So I'm like, alright, let's bring out Sableye, so that hopefully he'll switch into Lopunny, and I can get the burn. But he doesn't do that, and Slowking ends up taking out my Sableye, which I was pretty upset about this, because that was my big plan to take down his Lopunny, because I know that's been a huge part of his team throughout the weeks. It's just, with that high jump kick, it can take things out like crazy, so I wanted to half its attack with burn, but I wasn't able to do that. So at this point I was a little bit worried about how the battle might go, because I was not going to be able to get that burn on Lopunny. But luckily I didn't just bring special defenders, I also brought my Mawile, who is a great physical defender, as well as Blastoise is another great physical defender. So I had those two who could take those... I had it planned so both of them, or at least Mawile, should have been able to take a totally undropped high jump kick. So I did plan for that. It was like, I think, an 87.5% chance to be a 2-hit kill. So it wasn't gonna kill me outright when I brought Mawile in. So I'm still here. Right now it's a lot of this area in the middle is kind of just Slowking, Snorlax, Clefable, a whole bunch of things like that, like Gothitelle. They're all kind of just butting heads, trying to push the fight one way or another, and none of them really make any ground. So, I mean, there's critical hits being thrown around, but really no one's gaining any ground. It's kind of just a battle between the heavyweights. And, I mean, Snorlax is shown here. He can take special attacks really well. I mean, nothing's been super effective, so he really hasn't had to worry about that too much. I mean, the only thing that the team could really be packing, which is the reason why I kept bringing out Snorlax, is I'm like, okay, well, hopefully he'll bring out Lopunny so that I can be like, alright, let's start killing that thing, because that was the biggest threat for me on this team. That, Lopunny, and Clefable, just because I've seen them in other battles just start sweeping away the other teams simply because they're so powerful if they go unchecked. So I really wanted to try and take them out early, so I was like, okay, Snorlax, if you can bring out those big scary ones, hopefully I can bring someone in to beat them up. And I think right here, yeah, Snorlax did end up beating Slowking. It took a while, but it did work, and I was really happy about that. So at this point, I think I have taken down 2 of his... Yeah, I think at this point I had taken down 2. So I was like, okay, we're making some ground. I did have the advantage, and he did a burn here. I really wasn't that worried. I mean, it did lower my attack, which does lead to this. I believe it... I don't think it would have mattered. I think he still would have had... maybe it would have been an OKO. I wasn't really counting on that. But, I mean, right here, he does take the burn. He is burned. It drops his attack. And Gengar is way faster, and he used a Focus Blast, and I totally forgot about that, so I was crapping myself right here. But Snorlax eats that thing up. 50 health left after taking that hit. It did a lot of damage, but Snorlax really took the hit and then got that crunch in to kill Gengar. So at this point, I was freaking. I was like, holy crap, Snorlax. You've already done more than I expected. And that Future Sight did actually kill me, so at one point it did end up being a bit of an annoyance. But Snorlax had already done so much that I really wasn't too worried. And here comes Shaman again. Special attack, and I bring out a big, huge special wall. And she does exactly what she's supposed to do. That was a heavy hit and a crit, and drop my special defense, but I was still able to stay alive and use that Trick Room. So what that did is that gave me the speed advantage, because my team is very slow, purposely, so that Trick Room definitely did help. And he takes out Shaman, which was kind of good for me, and then again he brought in Clefable, so kind of annoying. And then again I have my Trick Room, set up my light screen, so now we've got boosted special defense with a great special defender, plus I have the speed advantage. So now I'm like, alright, let's just try and kill this Clefable, because this thing's going to be a pain in the ass. So again, I switch into Ferrothorn, who is my obvious block for Clefable, because this thing really can't do much against Ferrothorn, especially with the light screen up. And he did have a single boost right here, using that Calm Mind, and he did heal up a little bit, so took him basically back to full health again, which got annoying. And then, of course, Ferrothorn's out, he's withdrawing. And Shaman's out again, so I'm like, alright, I've got my light screen up. Ferrothorn can take some pretty good hits, so let's keep him out, let's attack. It did really well, and that was my attack. And then, since I still had my Trick Room up, I was still slightly faster. And then again right here, Ferrothorn nails it and stays alive, and that Life Orb takes out Shaman. 17 health Ferrothorn is left with. And then right after that is when the Dimensions turn back. So I'm like, alright, shit's crazy. And he used another Moonblast. I still have that light screen up, so 10 damage is all that did. So Ferrothorn held it together for like the last second, and that is why I really wanted to hit him. Ferrothorn's not much of an attacker, but I did over half of Clefable's health in one hit. And since my light screen wore off, I'm like, oh, okay, Ferrothorn is dead if I keep him out. So like, let's get Gothitelle out there. Let's kill this Clefable. So he starts healing, so that's what he did. That's how he beat out some people before. I think it was Mike he beat, because he was able to get all that boosted defense and special attack from Calm Mind, and then just kept healing himself up, because Mike really didn't have anything to take him out. So here again we have another like butting of heads between Gothitelle and Clefable, and he does do a good amount of damage on that hit. But I get that light screen up again, which is a humongous help for me. And those leftovers, which this week was the first week that I had half of my team packing leftovers. Most weeks I tried to diversify my items, but this week I'm like, I really just need that extra healing, because I know these guys are built to take hits. And Gothitelle's taking her lumps like a champ. Dishing some damage back. Not much. That is one unfortunate thing. Gothitelle is not much of an attacker. So it was really fighting an uphill battle against this Clefable with Gothitelle, but with that light screen up and just having good special defense, Gothitelle just could not be taken down by Clefable. Like, I think Gothitelle went into the red, I don't even know how many times this battle, 4 or 5, but every time works her way back out with those leftovers and just able to take those hits over and over and over. So I'm still going at it, still trying to take down Clefable, and there goes that Moonblast again, and Gothitelle takes another Moonblast and survives. So at this point it's like 30 Moonblasts. I know it's not that many, but still, just time after time after time, Gothitelle is able to take these hits and stay alive. I'm still just using Psychic. I'm like, if I can get you down to really low health, bring someone in on a Trick Room who has Steel and is faster than you, then we'll be set. I can kill you and get you out of here. Gothitelle again! Another time where we have someone left a tiny shred of health. 7 health right there. And just stays in, and then I still had that Trick Room up, but my light screen wore off, which was kind of scary, because that would mean I was for sure dead. And I did get enough damage to kill that Clefable finally. So at this point, Clefable's gone, which was a big worry of mine. And now out came the Lopunny. This thing was the thing I was most scared of, so I'm like, alright, let's try and use Protect, so if this thing comes out trying to do damage, I can just ignore it with a Protect, heal a little bit, maybe get enough health back to maybe take another hit at some point. And it tried to use Return, and I did Protect, so that was good. This turn was another edge of the seat, pants crapping moment, because I should have put up Trick Room again because I forgot it used Substitute, but I tried to use Protect again because I'm like, well, if it tries to attack, I don't want to die yet. So I should have thrown up a Trick Room there, but I did not, and then unfortunately here, it did hit me with a Return, and it did do enough to take me out. I think it would have been close if I had a little more health, but it was enough. So down went Gothitelle, so I'm like, alright, if that thing's going to attack me, since it's a total physical attacker, I want it taking some damage. And luckily, Iron Head and the Rocky Helmet do bypass the Substitute. So with that extra damage, took Lopunny down to less than half health. Which, I mean, I could easily do that much damage. I could, with my Mawile, I should have been able to... I had a chance to OKO with my Play Rough. And that high jump kick, taken like a champ. 27 health left, and I'm like, alright. I forgot about that Substitute though, so I was able to kill the Substitute, but it was like, oh crap. Mawile's dead, because he's too slow. So I'm like, okay Blastoise, bring it home, man. He comes in, and she was trying to just get the cheap, easy hit to get the kill, and it did a lot of damage. It did like half my health in that hit. But Blastoise is still amazing. His first weekend and he's amazing. Able to take that hit fantastically. So this battle was so close. I almost lost it right there at the end. But I did pull out that W, and it was a real nail biter for me. So that's the battle this week. Week 6 will be coming up next, and I believe I am facing Ian. Yes. So I am facing the Cincinnati. No, I'm not. Oh, no. I guess I am facing the Togepi's next week. So I'm facing Mike. So that should be a good battle. Thank you for watching. See you next time.